I was 12 when my parents packed their bags. They kissed my sister on the forehead, promised her the world, and handed me to a social worker like I was a stray cat they couldn't feed anymore. No tears, no hesitation, just a quick, cold goodbye. "Be good," my father muttered. Then they turned, hand in hand with my sister, off to chase dreams of fame and money. That was the last memory I had of them as parents. Years in foster care harden you. You learn to survive without affection, without security. I taught myself to smile when I was invisible, to fight when I was cornered, and most importantly, to never forget. And I didn't. When the email arrived years later, I almost laughed. Subject: "We need your help." I opened it out of morbid curiosity. There they were, my parents. Faces older, beaten down, eyes hollow. Their business had collapsed. The travel had stopped. The sister they had crowned as their golden child had moved overseas and cut ties. They had nothing. And suddenly, I was useful again. At first I ignored them. But then the calls began. Unknown numbers. Messages filled with guilt-laced pleas. "We were young and stupid. You're still our child. We need you." Need. That word lingered. I had once needed them, and they walked away. Now the wheel had turned. I didn't answer right away. Revenge isn't served through impulse. It's crafted, simmered, sharpened until every piece cuts perfectly. So I planned. The first step was to be seen. I replied warmly, like the forgiving child they imagined I still was. "It's been so long. Of course I'll help you." They cried on the phone. My mother's voice cracked. My father coughed through his apologies. They begged for a place to stay, a chance to start over. I welcomed them with open arms. When they arrived, they looked smaller than I remembered. Poverty had stripped them of arrogance. They hugged me as though we had never been apart. "I knew you'd understand," my mother whispered. I smiled. She mistook it for forgiveness. Step 2, I gave them comfort. A guest room in my house, a fridge stocked with food, clothes they could wear. I introduced them to neighbors as my family. I let them feel safe, fed, and cared for. But I also gave them work. "You'll feel better if you contribute," I said. So they cleaned, they cooked, they ran errands. I paid them allowances like children. They didn't complain. They were too grateful to be taken in at all. They thought they were rebuilding trust. What they didn't know was that every dollar they touched, every signature they scribbled, every errand I sent them on was part of the trap. Step 3, paperwork. While they scrubbed dishes, I had them sign routine forms. Rental agreements, job applications, bank authorizations. They didn't read. Why would they? They trusted me now, their savior. But in reality, those signatures bound them to debts they didn't understand. Credit cards, utility bills, rental contracts, all under their names, none under mine. And slowly, I moved money around. Small, deliberate transfers. Enough to sink them, not enough to raise suspicion. The breaking point came 6 months later. It was a morning like any other. My father was in the kitchen, pouring cheap coffee. My mother was folding laundry. That's when the knock came. 3 men in suits. Debt collectors. "Mr. and Mrs. Reyes? You've defaulted on several accounts." Confusion. Panic. My father stammered. My mother looked at me. "What's happening?" I sipped my tea. Calm. Silent. Watching. The men laid the folders on the table, each one stamped "Final Notice." And there it was, their signatures on every page. My mother's face drained of color. My father's hands shook. This must be a mistake." "No mistake," I finally said. My voice was soft, almost kind. "You signed everything. You've been living in my house, eating my food off money that wasn't yours. Now it's time to pay." Their eyes widened as the truth dawned. You did this," my father whispered. I leaned back, smiling faintly. "No, You did this. You left me once. I just gave you the same courtesy. The shouting came next. My mother pleaded. My father cursed. They demanded mercy. But I was calm, detached. The child they abandoned had grown into something they couldn't manipulate. When the collectors escorted them out, their belongings in trash bags, I stood at the doorway. My mother looked back, tears streaking her face. Please, we're your parents. I met her gaze. No, you were tourists. Parents don't abandon their child for convenience. And I closed the door. That night I sat alone at the table, the same spot they had signed their own ruin. I poured myself a glass of wine, letting silence fill the house. I didn't feel guilt, not even satisfaction, just balance. They taught me at 12 that love was conditional, that family was disposable. I returned the lesson with precision.